fall off. Now they holler he'll turn, thinking I'ma sell out. Talking just to feel heard, I never listen, although they say it's strictly. Welcome to Quick Hits. I'm your host, Shannon Smith, aka Podcast Smitty. If you're new to the show, what's good? I'm Shannon. I'm a fan of sport, and Quick Hits is dropping weekly to discuss headlines in the field of sports. So if that's what you came here for, go ahead and give this video a like. Get into those comments. Let's talk some sports. But most importantly, go ahead and subscribe to the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel and go through the plethora of podcasts that we have in the field of TV and movies, sports, and sports entertainment. Now let's go inside the boom room, meaning we're talking about all the happenings of Boom Broadcasting this week from my fellow content creators, my fellow podcasters, as they've been dropping their shows this week. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to everybody that watched Quick Hits on Tuesday, as it was Fan of Sport Tuesday. We talked about the Ace Bailey saga, the new F1 movie. Go ahead and see my review on that. And Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez. We talked about that, a barrage of other sports as well, too. So make sure that you watch if you haven't already. And also, too, Jason Colenso dropped 3 from deep, coming back from his vacation with his family. Dropped it on Monday, talking about free agency, the draft recap. He's been dropping shorts all on social media, talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's big-time payday, talking about DeAndre Ayton going to the Lakers. He's been big talking about all of that, so make sure that you catch those shorts and catch what he's been doing on 3 from deep. Our resident TV critic, the Professor Sean Lucas, dropped an episode of It Stinks at a different time. Usually drops on Thursday. He decided to drop on Tuesday. So he talks about Squid Game Season 3, his thoughts on the whole season. It's a very good episode, so make sure that you watch it. And Chris DeLuca honors the legacy of Dave Parker and gives his thoughts on Major League Baseball possibly expanding on Thursday's Dugout Debrief. And last, but definitely not least, we saw the return of the Prez, Michael Davis, dropping his live show Out of Pocket on Monday. He's back, gonna be giving you a live show every week. We had a great time on the show. It was about an hour and 30 minutes. It was great. We talked WWE. We talked the NFL trades. We talked the NBA signs, the trades. We talked about all of that stuff. We had a lot to talk about since Mike's been gone for a little bit. So we had a good time on the live episode of Out of Pocket. He also let us know that the man behind the mic is going to be returning this week. Looking forward to that. A little different perspective of Michael Davis from what you're used to seeing in that show. So make sure that you watch. And if you've missed any of these shows, if you didn't see them live this week, don't worry. We got you. Make sure that you go to the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel and watch these shows and other shows from all of us other content creators. Boom is on the rise. We're a year old finally. And now we've got more coming in year 2. So make sure you stay tuned. So, of course, it's Friday. And, of course, that's WNBA Friday here on Quick Hits. We're going to go over all the action in rapid fire succession in the WNBA recap. We also got news this week that there are 3 more teams being added to the WNBA in the coming years. I'll be talking about those teams. And does the W need to expand to different cities, or do they need to expand elsewhere? We'll talk about that. We've got All-Star starters that have been named. We've got the Power Rankings and the games to watch in the next week. So make sure that you are staying tuned here on Quick Hits as we're about to begin this show. Let's start it. WNBA Friday in full effect. And we're back as we go ahead and begin the WNBA recap as we start with last Thursday. The LA Sparks defeating the Indiana Fever 85-75. Caitlin Clark was a scratch for this game, still nursing the groin injury. Indiana is on an emotional roller coaster. Shout out to Vivian Green, such a beautiful voice. Beautiful woman. If you haven't heard that song, Emotional Roller Coaster, a little bit of an old song, but make sure that you listen to it. It's a great song. But that's basically been Indiana. But as we go into the rest of these games that are being recapped, we're going to see if they stay on that emotional roller coaster. But as of right now, last Thursday, 85-75 was the score for the LA Sparks. And on that Thursday, still later on in the evening, the Washington Mystics beating the Las Vegas Aces 94-83. Now, I know they call this show Quick Hits, but Jade Milburn lost a tooth after receiving an elbow from Chelsea Gray of the Vegas Aces. She got a flagrant foul for it. It didn't look intentional. It was a hard shot, but it didn't look like she intentionally threw the elbow. It just flared out there, and Jade Milburn, unfortunately, wrong place at the wrong time. She didn't return after losing that tooth there. It was rough. So be careful if you watch the video, or if you have already, drop it in the comments and let me know how you felt about it, because whew, it was rough. And then we go into Friday as the Minnesota Lynx defeating the Atlanta Dream 96-92 in overtime. Kayla McBride joining the 5,000-point club in that game. Nafisa Collier returned to action after missing 2 games. She got 26 points in that game in overtime, defeating the Atlanta Dream. And the Fever, who we talked about, that were still on that emotional roller coaster. It looks like they might have jumped off on this past Friday, beating the Wings 94-80. Unfortunately, this was supposed to be the setup of a game where Caitlin Clark would take on Paige Becker, but not in this game, as Caitlin Clark once again scratched for the groin injury. Paige Becker was supposed to meet Caitlin Clark this year. They've yet to meet. Both their teams have met each other in 2 games. Becker's wasn't a part of the first game. Caitlin Clark wasn't a part of this game. So they've yet to meet this season. But when it happens, I think it's going to be great. Kelsey Mitchell had 32 points. Paige Buckets, 27 points for our rated rookie, and a half-court buzzer beater at the end of the first half. Paige Becker has been playing some great basketball this year. She'll be coming up later on in the show, but also Kelsey Mitchell has been playing well. This Fever team is getting into the groove. You will see how they get into the groove later on as we recap the rest of these games. The Golden State Valkyries defeat the Chicago Sky 83-78. Kayla Thornton with a career high of 29 points for the Valkyries, and they are still saying expansion team who? They don't know what you're talking about because they're playing great basketball as a team. Kayla Thornton has been playing well, the emotional leader of this squad here. Great game against the Chicago Sky, getting the win, getting the Valkyries over 500 yet again. And the Mercury defeat the New York Liberty 106-91. It's been tough for the Liberty. The Phoenix Mercury make 18 threes for a WNBA record of 35 three-pointers made in 2 games. That's the most made in a 2-game spread. Alyssa Thomas, 17 points, 15 assists. She tied the team record for a single game in assists for the Phoenix Mercury. And they had a franchise of 30 assists on 41 buckets. That's a franchise record for the Phoenix Mercury. They've been tearing it up as a team. Alyssa Thomas definitely was missed when she was injured. She's picking up where she left off This squad is doing very, very well. They are a squad that will say a little something in that Western Conference. And later on, speaking of the Western Conference, the Seattle Storm take out the Connecticut Sun 97-81. 8 straight losses for the Connecticut Sun. They cannot find any relief, it seems. And Skylar Diggins passed Swin Cash for 24th all-time in points in the WNBA in a career. So Skylar Diggins is part of that 5,000-point club as well, too. Swin Cash, one of the OGs and a Hall of Fame player. Swin Cash is. Congratulations to Sky Diggins. As we go to last Saturday, the Wings beating the Washington Mystics 79-71. Paige Becker, she was a scratch in this game. Had the right knee issue. They sat her out for the game, but the Wings able to win it 79-71 this past Sunday. We had a slate of games here. The Atlanta Dream beating the Liberty 90-81. Not good for the Liberty. The Dream scored 62 points in the paint. That's the most they scored since 2012. Big time play from Brittany Griner, from Bree Jones, Alicia Gray. Very good job of scoring in the paint here as the Dream get the win this past Sunday. And the Chicago Sky defeating the LA Sparks 92-85. I got to watch that game, and that was a very competitive game and a very great ceremony for Candace Parker. Her jersey was retired by the Los Angeles Sparks. She's the third player in history to have her jersey retired. Her number 3 is in the rafters with Penny Toller and Lisa Leslie. Well deserved for Candace Parker. She's also going to get her jersey retired by the Chicago Sky in August. She's a Chicago native, one of the greatest WNBA players that you will ever see, one of the greatest female basketball players that you'll ever see, Candace Parker. What a career. She has been great for the WNBA. Well-deserved for what she has received, and well-deserved win for the Chicago Sky on the road, 92-85. The Aces get back in the winner's circle, defeating the Phoenix Mercury 84-81, a nail-biter. And the Mercury 6-game winning streak snapped by the Vegas Aces as Asia Wilson, 26 points, 18 rebounds, 7 assists. Asia Wilson, what can be said that has not been said about Asia? Incredible player. Just the team has got to get back in the winning ways. They got to get back to playing the basketball that they've played over the years. That's got them championships. They're still a force. Asia Wilson, still the best player in the league in my eyes. Still the best player. 10 ties and 17 lead changes happened in this game, so it was nip and tuck the whole time. The Mercury are very tough. Very good squad. Satu Sabali, Alyssa Thomas. They've got great role players on their team. They're getting support and getting scoring punch from their rookies. So it's been interesting for the Phoenix Mercury, who are fighting for a top spot in the WNBA and in the Western Conference. Later, the Minnesota Lynx beating the Connecticut Sun 102-63. 9 straight losses for the Connecticut Sun. Kayla McBride, 653 career three-pointers made by Kayla McBride. She's been having a great year, standing in for Nafisa Collier, being that second option to the Minnesota Lynx. That scoring punch from off the bench, whether she's starting. Kayla McBride still playing some high-level basketball late in her career. And the last game on Sunday was the Golden State Valkyries defeating the Seattle Storm 84-57. Kayla Thornton unfortunately left the game. She had a neck injury. So hopefully it is nothing that is detrimental to her. She's been having a great season. Golden State definitely needs her. But Golden State's bench scored 32 points as opposed to Seattle's bench that only scored 14. The Valkyries, a commanding win against the Seattle Storm. And on Tuesday, a surprise in the Commissioner's Cup. The defending champions of the Commissioner's Cup, the Minnesota Lynx, lost to the Indiana Fever 74-59. And might I add, the Caitlin Clark-less Indiana Fever won the Commissioner's Cup. She was out for that game. This is the first Commissioner's Cup win for the Indiana Fever. And might I add, the last two winners of the Commissioner's Cup played in the WNBA Finals. The Aces won it 2 years ago. The Minnesota Lynx won it last year. The Aces won, but the Lynx lost in the WNBA Finals. But hey, Indiana could do it. Indiana has played very well. Even with the absence of Caitlin Clark, they've had some people step up. Alea Boston stepping up, playing great basketball. Same with Kelsey Mitchell. They've had players come in and stand in and play very, very well in the absence of Caitlin Clark. So there is hope for this Indiana Fever squad. That is your WNBA recap. Let's get to these compelling stories that we have in the WNBA. Let's take a break and we'll be back. Let's talk WNBA expansion. That was the big story coming up this week, is that the WNBA, of course, will be expanding to 18 teams in the next 5 years. Of course, you have team number 13 introduced this year, the Golden State Valkyries. They have been taking the league by storm. They've played great basketball. They've been selling out crowds, home crowds all year. They've been excited for the basketball in Golden State, and they've been playing great basketball to accompany the sold-out shows that they have, the sold-out games that they've had. And, of course, in the next year, 2 teams will be coming to the WNBA, the Toronto Tempo and a Portland team that hasn't been named just yet. But in the beginning of this week, the WNBA announced that 3 more teams will be added on in 2028, 2029, and 2030. A Cleveland franchise, a Detroit franchise, and a Philadelphia franchise will be coming into the league in those coming years. Now, for all those out there who remember the WNBA, when it began in its inaugural year, the Cleveland Rockers were one of the original 8 teams. Hey, if you remember those original 8 teams, drop them in the comments. I bet you can't name them. But also, too, you remember the Detroit Shock were the first expansion team in the WNBA. They came later on the next year. And if you remember the ABL, which was the American Basketball League, you remember the Philadelphia Rage. I never saw the ABL. I remember they had a commercial for the ABL. I never got a chance to watch it when I was younger. They were around in the mid-90s, but they did not make it that far. The WNBA came in the next year, and after that, the ABL closed their doors, and the WNBA dissolved the ABL, and they are who they are right now. So when I heard about expansion, I was very, very happy, and the first things that came to my mind was bring back the Cleveland Rockers and the Detroit Shock. The Rockers, of course, the original 8 squads in the WNBA. I bet you can't name them. I'll actually name them. I know them. I want to see if you know them. That'll be a trivia question. I'm going to pull a Chris DeLuca and say who were the original 8 teams in the WNBA. Drop it in the comments. I want to see if you know. There was 8 of them. And, of course, the Cleveland Rockers was one of them. So name me the other 7. But, yes, the Detroit Shock, they were the first expansion team. And they won 3 titles with a coach by the name of Bill Laimbeer. Now, you remember him, Detroit fans. He was head coach of all three of those championship seasons that the Detroit Shock had. But Detroit Shock went to Tulsa later on and then dissolved into what we know as the Dallas Wings. I grew up with the WNBA, and the nostalgia is real for me and fans like me out there. That's why I'm saying bring back these two squads, the Cleveland Rockers and the Detroit Shock. Bring them back. All three of these cities have a rich basketball culture. Dawn Staley, you remember her, right? Dawn Staley played for the Philadelphia Rage in the ABL. So yes, that will be big. That might be a luring point for Dawn Staley to coach a WNBA team. Who knows? That's a possibility. And for the Detroit Shock, Swin Cash, who we mentioned in this program, she played for the Detroit Shock. Nancy Lieberman played a season with the Detroit Shock. She even coached them as well. And the Cleveland Rockers have 3 Hall of Famers. And the Detroit Shock, of course, coached by Coach Bill Laimbeer. 3 championships for the Detroit Shock. Women's basketball is popular right now. And they got to strike while the iron is hot. So adding those 3 teams in there is going to be big. 5 teams in the next 5 years. They're going to expand to 18 teams. That's big for the WNBA. But there was another thing that I thought of as well, too. Cameron Brink, who plays for the Los Angeles Sparks, on her podcast, talked about how the WNBA's main focus should be expanding roster size instead of expanding teams. She said this when the Golden State Valkyries came into fruition this year. She felt like it should be more players on a roster. The NBA holds 15 players on their active roster. The WNBA only holds 12. Cameron Brink is rehabbing her ACL tear that she had in her rookie year of 2023. With the CBA coming up in the fall, that's going to be a talking point for the WNBA and WNBA PA President Nneka Ogwumike. She's been advocating hard. Players have been talking to her. She's representing the players, wanting these players' voices to be heard by the WNBA. Remember, the WNBA has until Halloween to come up with a new collective bargaining agreement. If not, the WNBA will have their first strike. There could be a work stoppage for the WNBA. That would be hard to see. I know that there are people inside of social media that make light of, whoa, the WNBA is going on strike. What will we do? I don't want that to happen. The WNBA has been gaining momentum. They've been popular. Why would you want that? Why would you want a work stoppage? Come on. These ladies want higher salaries, better working conditions. They've talked about this. And the WNBA has got to hear them. So, yes. And then we go on to the All-Star starters being named. Caitlin Clark and Nafisa Collier are the 2 captains for the WNBA All-Star game. Caitlin Clark, Nafisa Collier finished 1 and 2 in the fan vote. First-time captains for the both of them. Caitlin Clark in her second All-Star game. Nafisa Collier in All-Star game number 5. They will draft their team on July 8th, and they have these players to draft. These are going to be the starters. These are the next vote getters after them. So the starters for the game are headlined by 10-time WNBA All-Star Nneka Ogwumike, Miss President. It was really cool seeing her sister call her on the set of the WNBA show that ESPN has, letting her know that she was the starter, that she's been named the starter. That was cool. I love seeing that. That's amazing. Very, very nice. And, of course, 7-time All-Star Asia Wilson and 7-time All-Star Brianna Stewart. 4-time All-Star Sabrina Ionescu and three-time All-Stars Alicia Gray, Alea Boston, and Satu Sabali. But here's an interesting one. Paige Becker, the rookie sensation from the Dallas Wings, is a starter for the WNBA All-Star game. She's the sixth number one pick to start in the All-Star game as a rookie. Caitlin Clark did it last year. Alea Boston did it the year before. Maya Moore in 2011. Sue Bird in 2002. And Shamiqua Holesclaw in 1999. Congratulations to Paige Becker. The reserves will be picked this coming Sunday. So we'll see who will be the reserves. We'll see who got snubbed. We'll talk about that on the next episode. We're going to go into these power rankings right here. I've got a new one in the power rankings at number 5, and that is your Golden State Valkyries. Once again, what expansion team? They won 4 of their last 5 games coming into this week. And the New York Liberty, they dropped the number 4. They dropped the last 2 games. They are missing Jonquel Jones in a bad way. The scoring punch, the rebounding. They've been bullied inside of the paint. It's tough. Injuries are a very, very tough reality in pro sports. And the New York Liberty, unfortunately, biting the dust on this one. They're number 4. Number 3 is going to be the Atlanta Dream still. They took the Lynx into overtime and outscored the Liberty in the paint. So Atlanta at number 3. And number 2, the Phoenix Mercury. I felt like Alyssa Thomas should have been a starter, but, it is what it is. She's been instrumental in this team's success. Incredible play by Alyssa Thomas. And number 1, of course, is the Minnesota Lynx. Unfortunately, they lost the Commissioner's Cup. Yes, they did. But they're still in good shape right now atop of the WNBA and the schedule coming up on Saturday. There won't be any games tonight. There will be games on Saturday. The Los Angeles Sparks will be playing the Indiana Fever at 7 p.m. And then Golden State will be playing Minnesota at 8 Sunday. We've got the Seattle Storm up against the New York Liberty, the Las Vegas Aces versus the Connecticut Sun. Got Chicago versus Minnesota in the later game on Monday. You've got 2 of them, the Golden State Valkyries and the Atlanta Dream will be playing, and the Dallas Wings will be playing the Phoenix Mercury on Monday and Tuesday. We have the Chicago Sky playing the Washington Mystics. The Las Vegas Aces playing the New York Liberty. A little bit of a rematch of 2 years ago's championship in the WNBA. Both these teams are on the ropes. They're a little struggle. They're struggling right now. They're struggling a bit. So let's see what they can do. That's Vegas and New York. And on Wednesday, we have the Seattle Storm, the Connecticut Sun, the Golden State Valkyries versus the Indiana Fever, Minnesota versus the Phoenix Mercury, Dallas Wings versus the Chicago Sky. That is our show for the WNBA Friday. Enjoy your Independence Day. Be careful with those fireworks. Remember, a great man once said, back up, put it in reverse, Terry. Enjoy your Independence Day. Happy birthday, America. I'm Shannon Smith, and this is Quick Hits. Can't fall off, now they holler he'll turn, thinking I'ma sell out, talking just to feel heard. I never listen, although they say it's strictly